Today I'm adding a new housing LED light to an Ariens Snowblower, and the Ariens genuine OEM part number is 721055000. I'll put that on the screen too because it's kind of hard to read on the box. Now the bonus is that my Ariens Snowblower already has an LED light on it. This whole kit is pretty much just a plug and play, but you are going to have to drill out a couple rivets, and those are located right here. I gotta sit on my little cart, big man on a small cart. Let's open up the box and see what we got inside. We got our wire harness. I can see how it's gonna work already. Good. We got a parts bag, and there's some self-tapping screws in here and a couple cable holders with a couple wire ties. And here's our instructions. Shovel holder looks exactly the same as the original one. Here is the actual light housing, and we've got a plate. And I know inside here, on a lot of these little LED lights, there is some small little probes, so I gotta be careful when I plug that in. Now for all of you that are wondering, this kit came in at $89.63. Okay, fine, I'll read the instructions. Or at least try to. Installation, stop engine, and remove key. Now we shouldn't be touching any moving parts here, but hey, safety first, right? I'm gonna grab my trusty spark plug puller pliers, ink, and film that part, but I'll show you, it's disconnected. All right, so this piece right here is actually a template. That's a pretty thick template they're sending you. It's not just some piece of cardboard or paper. Now you are supposed to remove these rivets with a 9/32 drill bit, but unfortunately I don't have one. Get on it and go slow. Wow, darn thing's just spinning on me. So we gotta try to nurse it. Go with a tad bigger bit and see if I can get through. Going, but slowly. There we go. These are coming off a little harder than I expected, to be honest with you. There we are. This rubbed on the metal a little bit, but 9/32 would have done the job. Now the next step of hooking up the wire harness to the wire housing is critical mass. I'm hoping you can see that over on this side there is the little catch for this clip. Now you'll take the wire harness and put a good little 90-degree angle on it because you don't have a lot of room, but you want to get this straight and then you'll lock it in. I certainly cannot do it standing in front of a camera, so I've got it on a really good angle because it's an angle one way and another way, and then just start feeling those little plastic catches go in, and it directs you pretty straight, and there we are. Now we'll see when it comes time to fire it up if I didn't bend over one of those probes. Now our next part, we need to route this wire. You've got a couple little slots. You just kind of get them tucked in right there and out the back of the housing. You're gonna wanna make sure that you got the wire kind of routed nice like this so you don't end up pinching it when you're installing it. I'm thinking that these are going to be spot on. Now I see why they send you a new mount for the clean out shovel, because when you're drilling that head in the rivet's gonna tear up that plastic. Now you're gonna need your number 10 half-inch bolts and your flanged locking nuts, but I like to use a little bit of thread lock. Number 42, you can still remove these with hand tools. I'm just gonna put a little dab on there because there's nothing worse than having things shake apart. This is good for vibration too. Now, get just a little bit of droppy drop on here. Get the bolt through, put on the housing, just gonna let that spin down. And we got one hand, and we're just gonna get this finger tight right now. Get my other nut with a little bit of number 42. Oh yeah. And then put on our flange nut. Got our 3/8 self-tapping that are gonna go into the plastic. So we gotta get them lined up. And it shouldn't be too far off. Get it lined up and start screwing it in. All right, so now we get our next self-tapping in. you'll feel it start to bite when you hit the hole. Make sure I'm putting it on square as I'm starting to tighten them up. Not perfectly square, this little plastic piece, but it's there. Now we got to tighten up the back ones. Bolt is a 5/16 and the nut is a 3/8. Now obviously I don't have to over tighten these because we got a little bit of thread lock on there. But you don't want it rattling around either. Oh yeah, that ain't going anywhere. Hope my underpants aren't sticking out. See how this mounts. Wow, looks like it's meant to be there. Get this on here, and we're gonna spin it around because I don't wanna have to move cameras. Our next step, we gotta put on these cable mounts. And these are gonna go up on top of the housing and behind the chute. Grab a little paper towel and we're gonna clean it up here. I mean, I've never even used this machine yet, so it should go on pretty easy. And we'll just kind of follow this wire straight down. And line it up and press it on. Doesn't have to be perfect. And take a wire tie, get it through there. Now, I have plenty of wire ties, but we're not gonna clamp it down yet. Now our next one, we gotta put it right behind the chute underneath this lip of the housing. You can kind of feel a little flat side over here. And now I'll take and get it through there so we can actually mount it. And get her through, just like the other one. We will start it, but we're not gonna lock it tight, because we're gonna put a little bit of slack here so we don't have it flopping around too much. Now this part is gonna be pretty easy on the Deluxe, Platinum, and the Pro because we already have this mount and it's actually pretty flexible. Bend this clamp back a little bit and now we can feed our wire in there. Get this one out of the way. There we go. Can now just bend her back down. Now get some of the slack, a little bit out of the cable. Gotta just make sure that you got enough room around the belt cover. We wanna go underneath the oil and finish right there. Really like my Traeger mat. Works perfect for this. Now for your last step, you're supposed to put a clamp on the engine mount. Now they do give you 2 of these clamps. I only need to put 1 of them on. So let's take our 1/2-inch wrench and let's loosen it up. There's not a lot of torque on these at all. Before we go ahead and put that J-clamp on, let's get our harness hooked up. We will disconnect the motor. Don't get too rough, but wiggle it back and forth and you'll get them to come out. And obviously now this is pretty simple. We've got a female and a male. This is for our motor. Make sure that clips in. And now for our dash light. That will go on. I'm not sure if these are gonna show, but you line up these little plastic indicators on the outside of this. One side's flat and the other side has this little groove. Okay, now it's time to go ahead and put on our J-clamp, and that is going to go down. Now you can kind of visually kind of match them up for looks for now. Again, this was not on very tight torque, and 106 to 158 pounds of torque really isn't much. I'm going to do that, but I don't have my torque wrench here. I'll put some B-roll on with me torquing that nut to 106 to 158 pounds per inch. And we'll take a wire tie and just kind of loosely attach them. And we'll clip her off. That don't look too bad for government work, that's for sure. Now we've got plenty of slack all the way around. Now a guy could get another little cable mount if you wanted to put it on there. It's going to be the big test. Put my key in, get our spark plug hooked up. And when you're putting this on, you really got to hear it pop or you don't have it on. Push it over to choke, turn the throttle up, and prime it 3 times. Give her a pull. connections still look good. They didn't get bent or anything, but this yellow lead that runs up to the dash doesn't seem quite right, so I might have to get tricky with it. Okay, so that's something I'm gonna have to watch. It is that little bare wire. Hopefully I caught that on film. It's just not like they clamped it in there. So I can probably order just that connection. I'll talk to Ariens Snowblower is where I got this. I'll have it on film, I'll have proof. But overall, very simple to hook this up. One thing that I wanna mention is that these assembly instructions are super easy to follow. If you can't follow these instructions, 100% you've already taken it to the dealer to have them put on the kit. Well, that's all I got. Roll it, Nation. Gonna be a little work at night now. Yep, might have to wiggle that wire harness a couple times, but we'll get it figured out. Oh, bye.